When the judge scolded Melly and his lawyers in the middle of the courtroom, his bond hearing suddenly turned into a full-fledged brawl.
I didn't ask for it. I don't understand your continued behavior, speaking out of turn, yelling at someone that's not true.
What actually happened in that courtroom is the basis for this courtroom drama. After 6 years in jail, with emotions at an all-time high and the death penalty looming, did this heated altercation harm Melly's prospects of being released? Let's not discuss YNW Melly's identity. Jamal is actually born. The DA's office claims that in October 2018, Melly and his boy Cortland Henry from NW Portland allegedly suffocated Williams and Thomas in a whip in Miramar, Florida. Due to allegations that he killed his buddies Anthony Williams, YNW Sack Chaser, and Christopher Thomas Jr., YNW Juvie, this young rapper has been in jail since February 2019 and is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. His first experiment was a brick wall, but he tried to pretend it was a drive-by. Before the next court session in July 2023, Melly's legal team had been working non-stop to get him released on bond after the jury failed to reach a verdict. According to the documents, this bail hearing is Melly's second attempt at pre-trial release since the mistrial. After November 2024, his defense team has been working on this motion, arguing that after his initial booking, weird things have changed. Let's break down what really went off in court on May 6, 2025. Judge David Porter reviewed the previous motions in Melly's case before starting the session. As each side got ready to present their case, the mood was tense. Melly's defense team, which included attorneys Mr. Benjamin and Miss Liberty, came up with a bold plan to convince the judge to let their client touch Road Tom.
This is on top and bottom. Page 4. This is David Porter versus Jamal Benjamin. 19-1872 CF10A 23-10594 CF10A. Ms. Collins, Mr. Griffiths, Mr. Silvershine present for the state. I've got Mr. Lee, Mr. Adelson, Mr. Benjamin.
Things got heated when the defense tried to introduce testimony from Dr. Cuthbert, an expert witness they had apparently just added to the team. Yet, the prosecution couldn't take it any longer and objected right away, saying they hadn't been given enough information about the witness or any prepared papers.
She was noticed sitting less than 36 hours ago. She could be testifying as an expert. We don't know what documents we should rely upon. We don't know what materials she was able to review. We could have filed no reports in order to know the substance of the testimony.
Court's decision to concur with the prosecution and reject Dr. Cuthbert's testimony significantly changed the defense's approach to the hearing, requiring them to rely entirely on legal arguments rather than expert witnesses. Judge John Murphy dismissed some evidence collected by violating Melly's constitutional rights in an order he gave on December 21, 2023, earlier in the case. The prosecution tried to use this suppressed evidence during the bail hearing, but the defense argued that it shouldn't be allowed, was a significant source of conflict throughout the proceedings.
I wouldn't call it an exclusionary rule, but I'm saying it should not be considered by the court because the court, the law in this case is it was suppressed and it cannot be used by the state in any way.
After a heated back and forth, Judge Porter decided to give the defense the victory, stating that he would not consider evidence that Judge Murphy had previously dismissed. For Melly's team, this was a big win because it meant that certain potentially damaging evidence would not be considered when setting bail. The hearing then examined many warrants related to Melly's cell phone data, social media accounts, and other digital material that the prosecution had acquired to get deeper into the details of whether evidence had been concealed. Additionally, the defense worked hard to clarify which specific pieces of evidence were still allowed and which were now forbidden by the suppression order. The location information of the cell site from October 26, 2018, the day of the alleged deaths, was one of the most important revelations made during this discussion. Implied that when deciding whether to grant bail, the judge may still consider this potentially incriminating evidence.
Cell site location information
Remains
on October 26, 2018. None of that was correct.
Once that was settled, the parties set aside their differences about the high standard of proof that clearly controls bail hearings for capital cases such as Melly's under Florida law. The prisoner may be held without bail if there is a significant presumption of guilt and substantial proof of guilt. Nevertheless, even in cases where both conditions are met, the court still must the power to grant bail in specific circumstances. The prosecution argued that they still had a strong case against Melly, even after the suppressed evidence was taken off the table. They did this by citing the remaining admissible evidence, such as data, ballistics, and contradictions in co-defendant Cortland Henry's claims.
Certainly, Judge, and that's the case law provided to the court. There's actually a presumption of correctness as to Judge Murphy's order, that there was proof evidence presumption grade. So really what the court is considering now is just effectively has that suppressed evidence that the court is now considering changed the state's position where proof evidence is no longer present. We believe that proof evidence still remains strongly present because, as the court was noting, all the information from the day of the homicide remains.
The defense responded with key points. First, they emphasized that the jury's failure to achieve a unanimous verdict during the first trial showed that the evidence was not as strong as the prosecution had claimed. Additionally, they put Detective Mark Moretti on they cited other search warrants obtained after Judge Murphy's suppression order, suggesting that the prosecution was acting dishonestly, and they claimed that he had tried to suborn perjury.
For the purposes of the proof evidence, I have some factors. I know Ms. Liberty has a couple. If I could, Judge, I believe that the rulings by Judge Murphy, that starting with the testimony of Michelle Boutros, which the Judge Murphy ordered the state that when she testifies, they cannot cross-examine her in any further proceedings. The state appealed it on a motion, on a appeal, a writ of some sort, I forgot which one, and that was, and I attached it to my supplement, the fourth denied their seeking relief on that issue.
The defense then presented their proposed conditions for Melly's release, which included a nominal cash payment and the insistence that he stay in a new crib, not wear straps, wear a GPS ankle monitor, and be under constant security surveillance. They asserted that public safety would be guaranteed by these regulations. Melly supports the justice system's fairness by going to court.
So, the conditions in the jail aren't good. He's been there 6 years, Judge. The Constitution says everybody gets the presumption of innocence. 6 years. We're going now past 6 years. He has substantial ties to the community. His mom, his grandma, his sister, his brother, his friends, his grandpa. They're all here supporting him. The special conditions are there, and that's what we get out of the different case law. That proof evidence grade, that's one thing. You go to the second. Are there special conditions that we can put in place to protect those three things? Make sure he's present here.
They brought up Melly's suspected witness tampering and emphasized the gravity of the charges, 2 counts of first-degree murder. But the prosecution didn't believe them. They pointed out that many countries wouldn't send him back if he faced the death penalty, making the risk of fleeing the country exceedingly high.
The concern is if he goes somewhere where he cannot be returned. As the court has repeatedly pointed out, Mr. Demmons is charged with the death penalty. Many countries in the world will not extradite back to the United States if they are facing the death penalty here.
In response to these concerns, the defense team claimed that the recommended security measures would prevent Melly from bouncing. His record company was ready to provide the documentation for any possible monetary bond, they added.
So, as to your comment, in light of my client's popularity, we opted not to put somebody on to give you the address of where he'd be living at. We were going to proffer, I would give that in camera as far as where he would live at. He would be residing with his sister and with his brother. Give you the address. We would have the security detail. All of that can be given to you in camera. As far as the second amount, his record label would be if there was a monetary bond in place. His record label is agreeing to put the monetary bond up for him. So the financials would be covered because it would be coming from this record.
As the session drew to an end, Judge Porter thanked both parties for their presentations and said he would take his time. Considering all of the reasons made in relation to Melly's bail request, he left Reed and Melly's team in the dark about when he would make the decision. Social media sites are ablaze with rumors following the hearing's conclusion that Melly received a $500,000 bond for one of the 6 accusations against him would not clear him since, according to XXL magazine, he would need bonds for all offenses. Fans and legal observers are currently eagerly anticipating the judge's ruling about the complete bail request. During this bail hearing in September, they want to know if YNW Melly will be released or if he will be held until his retrial. It is just one stage of the complex legal drama that has surrounded YNW Melly for years. The stakes are extremely high because of the legal background, street feuds, and the potential for either ongoing incarceration until September, with the death penalty still a real threat, or temporary freedom pending trial. Although the 2018 double murder is the subject of YNW Melly's current bid, his legal troubles go far further back than many of his supporters may believe. Melly first encountered the law at the age of 16. Melly was charged in October 2015 for shooting 3 students near Florida's Vero Beach High School. Fortunately, no one was hit. But young Jamal Demons was charged with 3 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and 1 count of public firearm discharge.
Yeah, I had went to jail for the school shooting thing I did.
School shooting thing?
Yeah, I was shooting by the school.
During his comeback, an interrogation tape from the arrest surfaced in 2023, revealing a heated interaction between young Melly and the guys in blue during a 2019 interview. Melly was convicted and spent around a year in juvenile detention, where he received his GED. Melly explained how the school shooting happened, including an instance in which a strap he had brought to class was purportedly stolen by someone else.
Yeah, and then
Wow.
Melly continued to catch cases after leaving juvie in 2017. He broke probation and was placed on probation for a few months. On June 30th, 2018, he was arrested in Fort Myers, Florida, for possessing marijuana, having a strap as a convicted felon, and possessing drug paraphernalia. A few months later, on January 3rd, 2019, the police caught him again in Fort Myers for carrying gas, but these small charges are nothing compared to what has kept him in jail for the past 6 years. On February 13th, 2019, Melly turned himself in after being charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of Anthony Williams, YNW Sack Chaser, and Christopher Thomas Jr. in 2018. The DA's office claims that the suspected circumstances surrounding these killings have been closely examined. Cortland, along with Melly, in order to make it appear as though they had strays in a drive-by, Henry YMW Bortland allegedly bodied Williams and Thomas inside a Jeep SUV. They then drove around with the bodies in the whip before bringing them to the hospital, where they gave the police a false account. The prosecution's case was built on forensic evidence, such as blood splatter patterns, cell phone tracking, and data ballistics analysis. The prosecution has insisted that the evidence unequivocally demonstrates that the gunfire originated inside the vehicle, refuting the drive-by. The state's explanation for why everything happened has changed over time, but the defendant's story has frequently focused on gang affiliations. During the first trial, gang expert Danny Polo testified about blood lingo in Melly's text messages and suggested that the rapper had been recruited by gang members. Prosecutors have claimed that Melly is associated with the G-Shine Bloods and that the murders somehow benefited the set. Text messages displayed in court depicted a beef between Melly and Sack Chaser in the months prior to the murders in August 2018, with Melly allegedly asking his mother for a strap amid disputes with Sack Chaser's family. The prosecution presented a particularly damning piece of evidence, an Instagram message in which Melly allegedly wrote, "I did that shit to someone named Peasy Gambino after the murders." It implied internal strife within the YNW crew over credit for their increasing success, with Sack Chaser seemingly feeling marginalized despite being an original member. The defense challenged this evidence, claiming that the spelling differed from Melly's typical typing style. The case against Melly has been complicated by a number of court arguments and drama. One of the most significant events occurred in December 2023 when Judge John Murphy issued an order, suppressing certain evidence that had been obtained by violating Melly's constitutional rights. As we discovered during the bail hearing on May 6, 2025, this suppression order primarily affected evidence that was not obtained within the immediate time frame of the murders, especially information that could have been used to establish gang connections or other alleged motives. The legal proceedings took a drastic turn in October 2023, when prosecutor Christine Bradley was dismissed from the case on suspicion of concealing information regarding. According to testimony cited at the bail hearing, a witness named Michelle Bros allegedly saw detective. The drama was heightened by Moretti's attempt to suborn perjury, which raised severe concerns about whether the inquiry was ongoing. Melly's defense team learned in late April 2025 that the prosecution had obtained new search warrants for a large portion of the same material that had been suppressed by Judge Murphy's order. These warrants, which were allegedly signed by Judge Bober in March 2024, were not shown to the defense until a few days prior to the bail hearing. The defense referred to it as forum shopping and claimed that it was a serious case of misconduct on the part of the prosecution.
Concerning this case that appears was in their possession for at least a year, if not longer. And as you're looking at those, at the defendant's exhibit and positive one, okay. I want you to know that if you look at the docket sheet, it took us 4 hours to organize the warrants because they were commingled. Warrant number 1 had pages from warrant number 2 or 3. And it literally took Mr. Benjamin's judicial assistant, like promoter, 4 hours to commingle all those pages because originally they came in so convoluted.
The first trial, which began in June 2023, ended in a mistrial on July 22, 2023, after the jury was unable to reach a unanimous decision. According to subsequent reports, the jury was split 9-3 in favor of manslaughter convictions, rather than the first-degree murder charges the prosecution was pursuing. The deliberations were reportedly chaotic, with one juror allegedly using homophobic slurs. Following the mistrial, Melly was not charged with any more crimes. Prosecutors accused him in October 2023 of using Bloods gang members to keep his ex-girlfriend, Mariah Hamilton, and her mother, Felicia Holmes, from testifying. According to the defense, this involved coordinating phone calls and letters through another prisoner named Terrence Mathesay, with approximately 60 calls between Mathesay and YW Bortland using coded language to discuss keeping the witnesses from appearing. Mariah Hamilton was never legally required to testify at Melly's trial, so the bail hearing was conveniently scheduled to coincide with previous bail requests and had no legal merit. Another contentious aspect of the case involves Florida's death penalty law, which the prosecution is attempting to use against Melly. In 2023, Florida changed its law to allow death sentences anonymity. This change has raised constitutional concerns, issues, and might have an impact on Melly's case if he is found guilty during his bid in the retrial. Melly has insisted on his innocence, but he has generally refrained from speaking out about the case in public. His music, especially the song "Murder on My Mind," which was released prior to the murders, has come under scrutiny for its violent content, and prosecutors have even attempted to use the lyrics against him in court.
Shit, I was in these apartments at first, Orangewood, and I moved to like Whisper Palm, some of the like Mexican houses.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Curiously, Melly disclosed that he had written "Murder on My Mind" while incarcerated in a 2019 interview shortly after being released from a prior jail sentence.
So Murder on My Mind, when did you write that and what was going on in your head when you wrote it?
First time I got locked up.
You wrote it while you were in jail?
Yeah. But I ain't trying to even talk about that either.
It was too crazy?
Yeah, it wasn't really, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I made it when I was locked up though.
And then what, you got out for a little while and you were able to record it and put it out?
Yeah.
And then you went in again because they were mad about the song?
Yeah.
During his sentence, Melly also talked about how he's faced in difficult circumstances, but he has kept his upbringing relatively quiet. Conversations. In words, nobody makes it out of there. Nobody even knows about it, I don't feel like. The little town of G-Ford Stars. Despite his modest beginnings, Melly's musical journey began in the 8th grade when he started making tracks with simple equipment. In an interview, he described his first recording setup as just a microphone with a hanger in front of that, with a wig cap on it, in his home room. Immediate link to composing music. I was always like, making sure my craft was perfect. I have to keep at it. You know what I'm saying. In addition to praising artists like Lil Wayne, Future, and Young Thug, he also showed his admiration for artists like Michael Jackson, Ed Sheeran, Adele, and YouTube, demonstrating a wider range of musical tastes that would later inform his melodic rap style.
I started rapping in 8th grade. I was listening like Michael Jackson, Lil Wayne, YouTube, Chris Brown, Ed Sheeran.
Lil Ed Sheeran.
I think he was out there. No, I don't know.
Melly's distinct look and style made him stand out in his high school setting at first. He explained that at first, everyone thought he was strange, but that changed when he started dressing differently from everyone else. You know what I mean? They like my sound and the way I dress. The release of Murder on My Mind in March 2017 marked his major break. The song would subsequently acquire ominous importance because while Murder on My Mind is still Melly's biggest hit, the murder charges that followed the song highlight his unique melodic approach with sung vocals that are different from the more aggressive delivery popular in Florida's rap scene at the time. YNW, projects like Melly's first commercial mixtape, I Am 2018, and We All Shine 2019, which featured the song Mixed Personalities featuring Kanye West, helped him expand his portfolio, a well-known collaboration that marked Melly's accent in the industry shortly before his arrest. In a 2019 interview, Melly called working with Kanye awesome and super mega awesome cool, indicating that they had recorded more than just mixed personalities. When asked about the strange robot imagery in the music video, Melly explained that it symbolized his multiple personalities.
Basically, it's just weird. It's basically just different, like 3 heads, 3 different personalities.
In the same interview, Melly claimed to have 6 different personalities, although he would only disclose 3. This idea of numerous personalities is one that he has promoted throughout his career. Melly Melvin and Marcus. He characterized Melvin as combative and unyielding, while Marcus embodies his romantic side and emerges when Melly tries to fit in as an ordinary person.
How many personalities do you have?
6.
6?
Yeah.
What are the 6?
I can only reveal 3.
Melly was discussing his personalities long before he was arrested for murder. So it's important to keep in mind that while some have suggested that these references to his personalities could be preparing for a possible insanity defense, it seems to be a true aspect of his creative persona and perhaps his sense of self. The impact of Melly's imprisonment since February 2019 has been substantial. His music has continued to be released intermittently. His first studio album, Melly vs. Melvin, was released in November 2019 while he was incarcerated, and his second album, Just a Matter of Slime, was released in August 2021. These albums were likely assembled from recordings made either prior to his arrest or during brief periods of freedom. When asked what differs from other rappers from Florida, in particular, Melly set himself apart from what he dubbed Kodak Black Kids, a group of musicians who were following in the footsteps of another well-known Florida rapper. Melly stressed his individuality by saying, "I'm not trying to be like anybody else. You can tell I'm from Florida, but you can't compare me to anybody."
Them niggas Kodak Black kids.
You said what?
They Kodak Black kids. I'm just different. I got my own shit going on.
You do,
Thing,
sonically for sure.
I ain't trying to be like nobody else. You could tell I'm from Florida, but you can't, you know what I'm saying? You can't compare me to nobody unless you compare me career-wise with Kodak.
Though the COVID-19 pandemic and the intricate nature of capital cases have contributed to some of these delays, YNW Melly has been in the pen for more than 6 years without being found guilty as of May 10, 2025. This absurdly lengthy pretrial confinement has sparked concerns about the constitutional right to a speedy trial. During the bail hearing, his lawyers alluded to housing him in 23-1 conditions, which refers to 23 hours of lockdown with just 1 hour of time outside the cell each day. However, the judge did not permit to be entered, as the terms of his detention have apparently been harsh. Proof without any testimonies. If Melly is granted bail, it is in line with the practice of holding prominent prisoners. Plans have been laid out by his defense team for him to be with family members while being closely watched, complete with GPS tracking and round-the-clock security guards. Despite his long leave from the rap industry, his record label has reportedly agreed to pay for any monetary bond that may be imposed, showing that they still view him as a valuable asset. According to reports from May 6th, his fan base is ecstatic about the possibility of YNW Melly touching road on bail. Several credible hip-hop media outlets, such as XXL Magazine and Hip Hop DX, published articles indicating that a decision on his bail request was expected to be made soon on May 8, 2025. However, things became confusing when accounts such as Say's DGTL. Later clarifications explained that wouldn't actually get him out unless bonds were granted for all charges. So, if Melly is released on bail, it would be his first taste of independence since February 2019. During that time, Melly has only been able to experience these developments through the lens of being locked down.